Oh, well, I just did an interview with Pierre Poilievre, who's going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada in all likelihood. And he chose to speak with me in depth instead of talking to the legacy media, let's say. And it was actually rather comical from my perspective, because all the legacy media outlets in Canada had to play catch up, which I contemplated with some degree of, inappropriate satisfaction. But there's something, so we had to talk about that, because Poilievre had expressed some doubts about his performance in the discussion. He said there were many topics he didn't get to. And so we talked about that. And I said, well, the long form podcast format can't be manipulated a priori successfully, because if you come to the podcast with a set of talking points and you stick to your script, you're going to get, first of all, no one will watch you. And I've seen this with political figures. This isn't a guess. I know this is the case. No one will watch you and all the comments will be negative. You have to come there knowing where you stand, but ready to follow the thread of the conversation wherever it goes. And to do that, you have to sacrifice the pre-planning. Okay, so then we might look into that more deeply, and we might say, well, now that video is predominating, let's say, over the written word, that means that might mean the reemergence of something like spontaneity over propaganda. Like, that could be the case, because the new media forms do prioritize spontaneity instead of preparation. Now, you can see that as a technological shift. Back when bandwidth was staggeringly expensive and every second on broadcast media cost a fortune, you could imagine that risk minimization was the name of the game, and that every second had to be controlled. But that restriction is no longer present, even at all. And so what that might mean, and that's what you're referring to, is that an entirely new form of political discourse might emerge, and that people who are capable of generating a certain degree of perspicacity and wisdom spontaneously are going to be prioritized over those who have a bent towards incentivized or instrumental manipulation. I mean, Poilievre could do that, right? He had a conversation with me. He got no questions ahead of time, none. And he was willing to go along with that. But it is really a completely different way of, now we've been talking to Democrats too, trying to get them on the podcast circuit. And the resistance so far has been the utter inability and unwillingness of people on the Democrat side to forego their pre-planned agenda with regards to a conversation.